Good day to all. Peter Howe, Wellness Within Reach. And once again, we're here with my big friend, Will Marsh from Premier Research. We left off last week with our friend digestion, and we want to dive a little deeper into digestion through one amazing product, which is the NucleoImmune, which now has been, yes, to the moon, revamped, repotentized, and willing to give us all so much more. It's amazing for me having folks, oh, I'm coming down with a cold, or I just broke a bone. Oh, here, take the nucleotides. Definitely guaranteed to give you a boost and speed your healing process up. It's been, for me, an amazing product for people with IBS and repairing the intestinal lining, et cetera. It just gives such a broad spectrum to our body, which these days is never challenged, right? Well, so anyways, let me turn the big words of wisdom over to Will, and stay tuned for some new educational moments. Take it, Will.
Thank you so much, and always a pleasure to be on these episodes here. As always, if you're needing more information on Premier Research Labs, please feel free to reach out to Peter Howe here on wellnesswithinreach.com. He has his contact information, and of course, you can see all of our products from Premier Research Labs at wellnesswithinreach.com. Really excited about this new formula. I'm actually going to share my screen here and dive right into it. And the reason being is many of you may or may not know, actually, 70% of the immune system is actually located in the gut. And as we dive into this series about gut health and optimizing digestion, which is a pillar. We've talked about how much it is a pillar in our health and wellness journeys. If you're not looking at the gut health and the overall ability of the gut to deal with whatever food stressor or emotional stressor you are having in your day-to-day life, you are missing, I think, a very, very big boat in terms of swinging your health and wellness journey into the right direction. Fair to say, Peter, is that a good point in that regard?
I would say you probably pretty much nailed it right on the head, because without what you were just speaking about, our lives aren't too useful, are they?
They are. And so, when we talk about the immune system and we talk about immunomodulatory factors and every meal you consume is immunomodulation. And how is that possible? How is, with the food you're consuming, how is that influencing your health and wellness journey in terms of immune health? Well, as you may or may not know, the majority of our body is actually comprised up of microbiota. The actual DNA load of the body, it's about only, I can't remember the exact factor, but very minuscule percentage is actually human cells. The rest of the actual cell count of the body is actually this microbiota, which makes up the microbiome of your whole body. And so the foods you eat, the emotions you encounter, the immune episodes you experience outside of the food event, those all influence that microbiome and that microbiota. And so when you have a very poor functioning immune system, right? When you have a compromised immune system, when you're chronically stressed, you have underlying chronic conditions where you have these leaky junctions, which immune stress can lead to that leaky gut scenario. You are essentially circumnavigating the efficiency of the digestive tract. And so when we talk about immune health, we very much so have to talk about gut health, and vice versa. You can't separate one without the other. And so when we look at immunomodulation in terms of nutraceutical applications, we're looking at making sure that the baseline activity of the immune system is appropriate. And especially within the digestive system, we're looking at the gut-associated lymphocytic tissue that surrounds the GI tract. As you may or may not know, the GI tract is essentially a tube straight through us, right? And what happens is there's all this supportive tissue that helps with absorption of nutrients, helps with, muscle contractions to get the food bolus moving, helps with essentially moving that food through the body system, and helps with protecting the body, because every meal you consume is really, in all honesty, you're exposing yourself to the world, right? And so that's a very, very vulnerable position to be in. And we need to make sure that our reinforcements are very strong, or, if there are potential contaminants, unwanted microbiota, species that, could really upset your biome or upset your being, those are filtered out and the guards are in place, right? And so when we talk about digestive health and immune health, we're wanting to reinforce, the key players in regards to regulation of what gets in, what gets out, and how strong that gut integrity really is. How does NucleoImmune do that? How does NucleoImmune help promote the natural activity of those natural barriers in the body? Well, I'm really, really excited because this new formula, I think, really hits on two key areas. It hits on nucleotides, which most people probably before this conversation haven't even heard about nucleotides. It was new to me when I first started at Premier Research Labs. I was like, I knew what nucleotides were, biochemist by trade, background in nutritional science. I was like, oh yeah, those are what makes DNA. That's what, if you have any sort of schooling in biology, you're going to know, hey, nucleotides make DNA. What people don't know is the physiological.
I'll just interject.
Yeah.
Big point there, people. Help support and create DNA. Yeah. What are we after, right? So.
And Peter, you and I, we talked a couple episodes back about the body of light and how the DNA of the body is actually releasing this body of light. Well, every cell in your body and the propagation of those cells, in that body of light, if you're not having the ability to promote more cell growth in terms of, that signaling and creation of proteins and different molecules and a cascade of information that happens from that body of light, you're missing the efficiencies of the body, so to speak. And so what we look at with nucleotides, just like amino acids, and I think a good comparison is amino acids, but they're completely different, right? Amino acids, as we know, make proteins. Nucleotides typically make up the DNA and the mRNA that goes into protein formation. And then, of course, proteins make up every single, basically, enzymatic process or enzyme in your body that carries out every single physiological process that your body's really doing. In essence, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but in essence, we're looking at, if your body is limited in the amount of nucleotides available to them, you are not able to produce the effective proteins and mRNA signaling molecules that essentially make sure the job gets done, right? And so the immune system, especially the adaptive immune system, relies on that reservoir or having enough of those nucleotides available so all of those messages can get going. But what happens when you encounter immune stress? What happens when you are stressed out, right? Your immune system is trying to ramp up that activity. It's pulling on resources to ramp up, especially when you have an acute scenario, right? Let's say you eat something funky, or let's say there's something in your food that requires an immune reaction. Your body is going to have to ramp up production of those antibodies, the essentially lymphocytic, molecules or modulators that, help to, they have to call in the guards, so to speak, right? And if you don't have enough nucleotides available, that whole process is going to be shortfalled, right? And, you can naturally get nucleotides in your diet. What are good sources of nucleotides? If you're, not supplementing, think of fast growing plants, stalks, asparagus, anything that grows very rapidly, right? That growing process means that plant has a reservoir of nucleotides that it's wanting to pull from. So, that's one aspect of NucleoImmune. I haven't even gotten into the next one. So these, just kind of summary, the nucleotides are the raw materials for the adaptive immune system to ensure that they have enough activity or enough resources to have an appropriate response in terms of immune health. And that's really what we're talking about in influencing our at least immunomodulation of the immune system and ensuring appropriate activity.
And I would really just emphasize the word adaptive, right? I mean, we have to these days, with all the insults that are happening, have that reservoir so we can literally, if there's an insult which is happening moment after moment after moment to our bodies just because of our environment, what better way to, I'll say, be prepared by having a little of this in our system. So.
Yeah, and when we look at immunomodulation and nutrition and nutraceuticals ability for immunomodulation, it's not really trying to get the body to be all super hyped up with its immune system.
Right.
It's to make sure that the body has the capability to have the appropriate immune reaction. And that, I think that's what we want, right? We want the body, regardless of the stressor, whether, you know, you have some funky food that you eat, whether you have an emotional stress, whether you go work out. And I think there's applications beyond immune health in terms of recovery for nucleotides that you and I, Peter, we could speak on for hours, right? We're going to be a little bit more, you know, closed in our approach with digestive and immune right now. But, you know, the nucleotides' ability to support the body, just in a ability to recover mindset, well, that opens the door to all sorts of different paradigms of use, right? And the beta glucans that we'll get into next, I think, builds into that wonderfully as well.
Go for it.
Yeah. So just wanted to highlight, though, we are using a raw material supplier in this regard in this product. It's called Immunel, is the nucleotide supplier. As you all may or may not know, and we'll get into the beta glucans as well, they're from BGF Immune. But these raw material suppliers, you know, they're basically our partners in helping to produce these end products, because they have their quality systems, they have their clinical claims that they're actually building into. So when you actually look up Immunel, there's actually research on the product. We're not pulling this out of thin air in terms of how the product is supporting the body. These raw materials have been clinically studied for these types of uses. And really what we're talking about is the innate and adaptive immune response. And so happy to go into studies maybe a later time, but it's just really good stuff with these raw materials that we're looking at with this new formula.
And I'll just throw out a little tidbit. Years ago when Nucleo, back then it was just called nucleotides, back when I was there, and when I started with Premier, and Dr. Marshall would talk about how he had to literally reduce the amount of Nucleo in the product because our diet and our environment is so unhealthy that people were just detoxing crazy just by bringing in this product. So it's kind of interesting that, again, here is you guys are increasing the amount, but through your formulation, you've been able to balance it so the body's not just, shall we say, discharging in all sorts of ways that we don't want.
And, you know, with Dr. Marshall's wisdom, a lot of times he was using clinical dosing approaches. And, you know, I definitely don't take this product in your hand and think, oh yeah, I'm just going to start downing the product. This is where, you know, a clinician like Peter here can help to create a strategy in terms of supplementation, because, you know, you can't just throw this in there and hope everything's going to turn out okay. It's an impactful approach. And just like you said, Peter, you know, if the body's not set up for success, if there's, you know, typical other kind of underlying issues that we're needing to address, you know, that's going to limit the ability of this product to be as effective as it can be, right? So there's different facets to it all. But going back to the nucleotides, before I have to really highlight the nucleotides because so important. But what we talk about in regards to digestive health is reinforcing, as we say in our technical bulletin, reinforcing the natural intestinal barrier. And we really are not only looking at the epithelial layer and helping to close, you know, when you have leaky gut, there is a potential ability for the nucleotides to be very soothing in terms of those leaky junctions, right? Because what happens, what creates that leaky junction? Normally it's runaway inflammation and runaway immune response in the gut that breaks down that tight junction and opens up a gap so that actually these waste metabolites or these illicit materials can seep through. And then you just get a propagation and almost like it builds on itself from there of an immune response that causes, you know, whether it's digestive distress, brain fog, mental distress, right? CNS distress, it can travel all the way up through the body, right? In that sense, and that gut-brain axis being connected. So I think it's so crucial to see the potential benefits with nucleotides and how they can, you know, really, they're key players right on the innate immune system, which is that epithelial layer, but also going into, you know, when we talk about our antibodies, our lymphocytes, our natural T killer cells, or B cells, you know, all these components part of the adaptive immune system, essentially, we're looking to reinforce those and the innate. It's not just one or the other. Nucleotides go into the kind of the whole situation there. So with that being said, the half of the picture with the nucleotides, we now get to go into the new facet of the beta glucans. The beta glucans, we are so excited to be, think of it as the icing on the cake for the nucleotides in terms of what we're trying to focus the ability, or really siphon the ability of this product to be an immunomodulatory powerhouse in terms of NucleoImmune, right? And with the 1,3 beta glucans that we have added from BGF-Immune, we are essentially looking at playing directly in, more so within immunomodulation, and actually looking at not only the adaptive immune system, and what we're talking about with the adaptive immune system is actually helping to stimulate, and this is where the clinical studies come in with beta glucans, stimulating the baseline activity of the adaptive immune cell. And what beta glucans were actually studied for, the BGF-Immune, they actually were studied for helping to make sure a proper natural T killer cell response was present. And so these natural T killer cells, think of the enforcers of the immune system. And so when you have when you have a virus, when you have a bacteria, these natural T killer cells actually hunt down that infected cell, and they help to remove that from the body. We also studied, or we didn't study, but BGF-Immune studied that the beta glucans help to modulate lymphocyte activity. So baseline lymphocyte activity, these lymphocytes help to, they're the white blood cells, right? They're the ones that engulf the bad material, digest it, break it down, and they're on their way from there. And so with this, and how do beta glucans do that? Or what are beta glucans actually? I think is probably a better question, because some people might not even know what they are. So beta glucans are polysaccharides that are actually located in the cell wall of typically fungi, right? So mushrooms. And I think that's the powerhouse of why mushrooms, mushrooms have kind of had an awakening with, the immune concerns that the population, that we're seeing today. And the reason being is because of the beta glucans. And there's different types of beta glucans. There's 1,3 linkages, there's 1,4 linkages, there's 1,6 linkages. And really what we see with the beta glucans is the 1,3 beta glucan has typically the best immunomodulation. And that is because that 1,3 linkage, the polysaccharide derivatives of that 1,3 linkage have these immunomodulatory factors, and where they help to, essentially the body almost quasi-recognizes them as foreign, basically it stimulates the immune system by attaching to different adaptogenic factors within the adaptogen, or attaching to the adaptogenic factors within the immune system. So when you look at how your adaptive immune system is triggered, right? How the body's adaptive immune response throttles up is essentially you have a viral particle, right? Or immune particle that is floating in circulation. And then it kind of bumps into this adaptive immune cell. And the adaptive immune cell is like, oh, well, this fits my, my warning system quite perfectly. It starts signaling this whole cascade of events to ramp up the immune system. What the beta glucans actually do is they get in your body, they float around, and they bump into an immune cell, and it wakes up that immune cell essentially. And it's like, okay, I'm ready to go, and it helps to make sure that immune is there. So very simple version. I'm not trying to be a PhD professor on this talk here. And so we really are just wanting to make sure that the immune system is awake, right? And the beta glucans and how their activity is understood is essentially, we're just making sure that the body's immune system is up to par in dealing with whatever it might encounter. And
once again, I'll just sort of, for the metaphor, without a strong foundation and the support, if you're building a house and and the cement hasn't quite set, you're going to have issues with the structure. And NucleoImmune is just one of those that makes sure the concrete's set and rocking and rolling.
Yeah. And so with these beta glucans and the nucleotides, and then we actually have the full phytonutrient blend, right? And that goes into better in nourishing the environment of the body so that the adaptive immune response is there. And that gets into our cellular resonance kind of philosophy here at Premier Research Labs. We're not just going to give you nucleotides, and we're not just going to give you these beta glucans. We're going to give you a whole phytonutrient complex that further helps the body have an appropriate immune response. So It is a powerhouse of a product. It is just one of those products where I think if you look at the clinical benefits and actually just the reservoir of research that goes into beta glucans and nucleotides, they've been within the industry for since the 40s, is my understanding, at least for the beta glucans. And so thousands of studies citing their benefits, and adding it to the product, it just really helps to bolsters the claims that we can make as clinicians, or you with Peter, to your clients in terms of that immune support. But let's keep in mind, with digestion and immune health and those factors that go into that, it is a entire holistic 360-degree view. It's not just one product, right? And so if you are encountering digestive distress, there probably is an immune component to that. And a lot of times there is a dysfunction within the balance of the microbiome, which I think is so crucial in managing. But not just this one product alone may not be that key. It's a whole diet, lifestyle, health assessment that clinicians like Peter, I think, are definitely here to support you with, and understanding where you can better address those. So, and of course with Nucleo, just as an added little sell here, we are doing all of our PRL quality guarantee, no max steroid, no fillers, no non-nutritive substances to the product. Everything that is put in with this product is essentially made to support you with love and the immune health and the overall vibrance of your body, with the natural herbals and botanicals used in the product. So great formula. I don't know how else to share my excitement other than, buy a bottle, make sure you have it on hand, because I've already had wonderful previous formula, wonderful reviews, as you know, Peter.
Yeah, totally. Well, I'll certainly throw in the new reviews for the new one. Just a little. Well, last week, feeling a little, just couldn't find that essence of light flow in the body, and went, let's try it. And there was that nice subtle, that all of a sudden there was just another tweak in the field that really was like, once again, it's about feeding the body the right stuff. And when it's minus something, what can we do to fill in the spaces? So, and last week, Nucleo was for me. So
it was for me this week. I had a slight stomach bug, and it was who knows what it was.
Yep.
Food, diet, stress. Just like we said.
Well, and I'll put out the plug again. So we're talking about the world of fungi, and you'll see here we also just happen to have our friend turmeric, or turmeric, depending on which part of the country you're from. And what did Premier do? But they really stepped up again and made a fermented multi-mushroom formula, a fermented turmeric. So it's, you guys are stepping up constantly to feed the body what it needs to deal with the challenges of today. Thus, that's why I'm here.
Yeah, essentially ensuring that the body has the raw materials available, it has the environment where, regardless of whatever stressor, right, that it encounters, it's able to respond appropriately, because life is full of stressors. Life is essentially about stressors, right? But the stressors should not define you. They should help to enlighten and bring you down further on the path that you're going. And so
that's a huge truth.
Yeah.
So anything else to add to this amazing product?
When we look at dosing, and we get this question a lot, and Peter, you'll get this question, can I take this daily? Can I take this, long term? Should I just keep it in the cupboard? I don't think there is a wrong way necessarily. And I think always consulting a clinician like Peter here, in terms of what's the best strategy for you, I think is going to be the best in regards to when you purchase this product. Now, I would recommend, keeping a bottle on hand at all times.
Always.
I think that is the key paramount functionality of NucleoImmune, is ramping up that immunomodulation and making sure that in the immune system, when called upon, when you feel like you're coming down with some acute scenario, you're able to directly support the body's own ability to throttle up a response in regards to that immune scenario.
And an adjunct. a major injury.
Right. And so injury, recovery,
Yep.
you know, some acute scenario, stress, right? Having these on hand to just reinforce the body when needed, I think is a great tool, a strategy to approach it. Now, over the age of 50, you know, that's typically when you have this throttling down of the immune system, right? The immune sensitivity of the body, right? We have a response where, you know, because of the environmental stressors, the lifestyle choices you've made, age-related decline of the immune system, the ability of the body to respond accordingly decreases. And so this is when we get into, possibly, depending on your background and your needs, an approach of integrating this into your daily routine. Now, the strategies around that, you know, I do want to be very individualized with that. So I will leave that in the hands of Peter when you have those questions. But, you know, in regards to the approach, I think it can be used for that acute. And I think that kind of acute, just having it on hand at all times when you need it, is a wonderful strategy. I have 2 bottles on hand whenever I need it, to put one for my friends and one for me. And probably I should have more, because I'll just be dealing it out of my apartment. But then again, there will be times for certain individuals where they will find that this is just their baseline protocol. They need that support on a daily basis. So
I'll just add another thing, is when things are encapsulated and then put in their fine little jars, you know, this, I'll just say, its ability to sustain life force is really a long time. I've found old bottles of products stuck in the back shelf and then went out to test its vitality. And, you know, however you guys are, I'll just say, bottling this stuff, you've done a great job to enable its ability to stay really fresh and high vibration, even when the expiration date has gone by. So it's great.
It's honestly, it's something that I would probably, I found 10 years in a cupboard and I was needing some immune support, I would still down the whole, I would take it. Not going to make a recommendation here.
No,
but,
totally. We are not recommending, but don't throw it away either.
And so, as you all know, you can always go to wellnesswithinreach.com. NucleoImmune, as you can see, is featured here, and definitely get a bottle to have on hand, and let Peter Howe, or give Peter a call if you have questions, concerns, or want to book your first consult. I think that is,
well, that's a nice plug. I'll take that. And always, people, keep dancing, keep that life force moving, because we're all worth quality of life. And even though we have a lot of challenges ahead of us. So, Will, thank you so much again for your time. Look forward to the continuation of this world of educating those who are seeking a better way of wellness and health. And again, big hugs, lots of heart, and great blessings to you all. Thank you. Bye.